So good afternoon, everybody. This is Melinda with the Motorsports Masterclass series. Welcome to the series today. We have a very special guest that's going to share her story with us, and I know you're going to want to stay tuned and listen because she's an amazing young woman. I ran across her Facebook page, and something about her struck me, and so I opened it up and I started reading, and I couldn't stop. So I read her whole story. And then I scheduled a call with her yesterday, and we had a great conversation on the phone yesterday. And she agreed to be one of our participants in our Masterclass series. So I want you to meet Kristy Eastman. She's from St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome, Kristy.
Hi, thank you.
So Kristy, why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, where you live, that kind of thing, and then just tell your story. I want the people to hear where you've been and where you are now.
Sure. So my name's Kristy, and I live in St. Louis, Missouri right now. I was born with a benign spinal cord tumor inside my spinal cord. So basically, they found it when I was 5, and they basically told my parents that I had a better chance of winning the New York lottery than I did having the size, the location, and the type of tumor that I did. So they found it, and it was the size of a golf ball, and as you can imagine, that caused a lot of pain for me and a lot of problems. So they operated on it 3 times to remove it, and it kept growing back, but every time they operated on it, it would completely ruin my nerves, my right leg. The growth was stunted 2 to 4 inches shorter than my left leg. And just a lot of mobility issues. Every time they operated, I'd have to learn how to walk all over again. And it would just lead to more and more complications and more surgeries. So I walked with a full-length leg brace for almost 20 plus years. And I just got sick of having surgeries, and I was in and out of the hospital all the time. So my 19th surgery, I just kind of flipped my thinking. I was so embarrassed of my leg the way it was. I had all these infections and antibiotics, which isn't healthy. And I just, instead of trying to save something that was dragging me down, all this dead weight, I flipped my thinking due to social media. I looked online, and you see all these amputees who are running and walking way better than I could. And here I am, and I have a leg, and it's not functioning properly. So I went and met a prosthetist and asked all kinds of questions. I met a bunch of amputees, and met a doctor who was also an amputee. And I went to him and I told him, I'm just kind of sick of this, and I think it'll better my life without it. And instantly he told me, you're going to eventually have to do this down the road because of all the antibiotics and all the surgeries. Why not? Your thinking's right. Why not do it now while you're young, and you can learn how to use a prosthetic leg, and you can learn how to walk all over again now while you're young versus when you're older. And I just thought about my future self, like, how am I going to be when I'm in my 70s or 80s? Mm-hmm. And once I spun that thinking around, my life kind of totally changed for the better. Once you start looking at things in a positive way, it's amazing how better your life becomes. So I met with the doctor, and then a month later, I had the surgery, and I got my leg electively amputated from the knee up. So I had to get a robot leg, and now I have this amazing robot leg that helps me walk. It does amazing things that I could never do with the actual leg that I had before. And in that journey of my leg journey, I had this big idea to do a big lifted truck. And I just kind of wanted to show, like, once my positivity changed for the better, I kind of wanted to share that with other people, not just people who are differently abled like myself, but people with fully functioning limbs and just average people, just to give them hope for any struggles that they're going through. Like, all of our struggles are relative to our lives. Like, my leg is my struggle, but you may have other struggles that you may seem like really big to you. And they are big to you because that's probably the biggest thing that you're going through. So I just wanted to share that just because you're going through something difficult doesn't mean you can't still have a positive life and do really big things. So I came up with this idea that I wanted a big pink lifted truck. And I wanted it to be fast and cool so I could take it to truck shows and kind of just share that inspiration of like, do big things, have a great life, and have a positive mindset. So I met with Robbie Bryant, who works at Keg Media, and it's a rendering company, graphic design company. And he asked me from there, I kind of shared my story, and he said, do you want to go to the SEMA show in Las Vegas? And I was like, at that time, I'm like, I don't know what the SEMA show is, but it sounds kind of cool. So I had this idea that turned into this really big idea, and it just got me more and more into the lifted truck industry. So I went to Vegas last October, and my truck became 12-inch lifted, pro charged, big, pink, and fast. And I just love it. And it really got me into like the automotive world. And from there, I started looking into potentially drag racing and being that one-legged female drag racer. Like that's my next big goal, is to do something and show people, hey, I have 1.5 legs, or I have one leg and a robot leg, and I'm still doing these really, really cool things. So that's kind of my story. I don't know. I'm just really, really positive about everything that comes at me in life. And I just want to share that with other people and kind of give them that inspiration as well.
So, Kristy, I heard your story yesterday, and of course I read about it. And every time I hear it, the smile on your face, a lot of people wouldn't have that, and you talk about struggles. Yeah, my struggle is my back. I had back surgery, didn't go well. So I have a lot of chronic back pain. But at some point you have to say, this is not going to define what I'm going to do. And that's kind of how I started this association. Was I couldn't do all the things I used to be able to do. I had to find something that I could do more from home or from anywhere, but not necessarily have to go and make appointments and drive a lot and all that, because I just can't do it. And you find something that you're passionate about, like your big, fast, pink truck, and it changes your outlook, doesn't it?
It does. And my thing is, if you do have back problems, or if you do have a leg problem, whatever you have that your issue is, you can either complain about it and not do anything about it, then you're just complaining, or you can go out and be positive about your situation or find a solution, and just better your life that way. Because once I did stop being embarrassed about my leg, and once I did have it removed and I could do all these things and have all these goals, your life turns around completely. And like with you have this amazing sports stuff, like automotive stuff, like that's going to help you get through it. And you just got to find stuff that you're passionate about and whatever makes you happy, and stop thinking about the negative stuff.
Exactly. And I know we talked yesterday too. When you're going through something like that, and I'm sure you have bad days, everybody has bad days, but when you're going through something like that, and you think that your problem is the worst ever of anybody, and then you look around and there's always people worse off than we are, and then you think, wow, I should be so grateful that I have a nice home and, a wonderful husband and wonderful kids and grandkids. You could list all the things that are positive, but it takes that. You have to work at it. It's some days it's harder to find the good, but.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to think in like perspective, like, yeah, I do have one leg, but I have a leg. Like I have a robot leg. Like there are a lot of people who are amputees who can't even afford legs. So yeah, I have my bad days, but then I have to remember that one thing. It's like, I have this leg. Not a lot of people are fortunate enough to have them. And I just try to remember those things, because yeah, my bad days, yeah, we all have them, but I have a lot of good days too.
Right, exactly. So tell me a little bit about your family. Do you have siblings? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I have a 5-year-old daughter. She is my little best friend. She's my mini me and looks just like me. She actually has a little truck just like mine. I've had it painted. Well, I painted it white and pink to match mine. She's crazy just like me, no fears, completely fearless. but yeah, she is my best friend, and like we do everything together.
And
But
what is her name?
Eva, she loves to go to car shows. She loves to go to truck shows, and she's gonna grow up to be just like me. And I hope she does. I hope she goes into the automotive world and enjoys this stuff too, because I think she will. So.
It sounds like it already.
Yeah, I love it.
And then parents, do they live close? Are you from St. Louis originally?
Yeah. So I was born in Iowa, but my parents moved here when I was 3 months old. So basically, I'm from St. Louis. My dad passed away 3 years ago from liver failure, but my mom's still here, and my mom loves Eva. Like, she lives out in the country, so we like to go visit her and stuff. And then I also have a sister here, so yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're pretty much based right there in St. Louis, which is, I mentioned to you yesterday, I grew up north of Quincy, Illinois. And so St. Louis back in the day, you know, was the big city to go to. We went to the Cardinal Cub games and we went shopping, you know, down there at the big malls, because St. Louis was the first town for a long time that had those great big malls, and that was just, everybody went there, you know, so
yeah,
now they're everywhere.
We're a Cardinal city. Everybody loves the baseball games.
Absolutely. Yeah, big Cardinal city.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kristy, when you talk about that you'd like to get into drag racing, have you ever driven anything at all in racing, or that's just something that you want to try?
So I haven't, and I've always wanted to, and I think a little bit what makes me different is I am a female. That doesn't make me that much different, but I do have one leg, and I drive with my left foot. A lot of people always ask me, can you still drive? And I'm like, yeah, I can drive. I just use adaptive equipment. On my truck, I have a left gas pedal. It's kind of like a Y bar. It goes over, so there's a protective cover over the gas, and then it goes over this way, and there's an extra gas pedal. So I'll drive with my left on the left, and then there's the brake on the right, which is kind of cool. But I can also cross my left foot over to the right if I don't have a gas pedal.
Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like to share that with people because a lot of people don't know that. And you just take it off when I'm not driving it, and then anybody else with two functioning legs can drive like normal. But yeah, I just want to show that I can be a left-footed female drag racer, and I just love going fast, and I want to learn how to do all that stuff. Like my daughter, I'm kind of fearless when it comes to that stuff. So I just think it's really, really cool and really fun. So I don't know if I can get into like Frank Hawley's drag racing school someday. I'd love to do that. I don't know. It's just one of my dream things, or maybe drive a big monster truck someday. I don't know.
That'd be fun too.
Yeah.
There's some women that drive those monster trucks. I just, my husband has a welding business, and we drove over to the place where he buys supplies one day. I rode along with him, and he came out and he handed me a magazine, and on the front of the magazine was a picture of a girl, and the huge story in the magazine was about this girl who drives a monster truck. Yeah. And it's in the welding magazine, but it was really cool.
There's also, I've seen an amputee monster truck driver. He's a male. And then here in St. Louis, that's where the home of Bigfoot is, like out in Pacific. So I know a lot of those people, which is really cool. They're really nice people. But yeah, I'm always like seeing their trucks and stuff. I'm like, I want to drive that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And I know you work a job, right?
Yes.
So
yeah, worked at Wells Fargo Advisors for 12 years in January. And I do a lot of like diversity, differently abled kind of promoting here within the company, because we do a lot of disability hiring and diversity stuff. So I'm an executive assistant for one of the higher ups here, and she's second mom. So yeah, I love working here. It's a great company, and I'll probably retire here unless I become like some big drag racer.
There you go. So I hear you say, you got to say it for me again. You don't say disability. You said something else.
Yeah, and I hate the word disability because it's such a negative term. It's kind of focusing on the negative part of my body, I guess, like the things that I can't do. So I say differently abled because there's so many things that I am able to do and I just do them differently. I walk slower. I have a robot leg. It's just different. I can do the same things almost that you could do. It's just different. So
I like that.
negative. Yeah, I try to train people to talk like that, but disability is just such an easy word. Everybody says it. So
Well, and it's been around long before you and I were around, so it's hard to change that. It's like changing the name of Kleenex.
Yeah.
Even though Kleenex is Kleenex, so it's kind of hard. It's hard to change people's vocabulary, but differently abled is a very cool term. I like that because, like you said, you're a normal person. You just have a different leg than I have. And so that's,
Well, I think part of having a physical disability is you kind of see that first. So whenever someone sees me, they see my leg first and they don't see me first. So it's just kind of out there more in disability, like, yo, she's disabled. Well, I'm abled at the same time. And that's kind of how my truck name came about. I called it Disabled Beauty, but in the logo, I have the disc crossed out because I like abled beauty. Like I am differently abled. So.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you tell me a little bit? So all through high school, all through school, period, pretty much, you were in and out of the hospital and that. What can you share with me a little bit about, like, what was your thought process then? Were you like, Mom, I'm tired of this. I'm missing, I can't do this. I can't do that at school because I'm in the hospital.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because we have a lot of young girls that are in racing that follow. And this series is kind of about careers in motorsports. And yet it's also about finding your passion. If you can't be the driver, which is, most young girls and even some women, their goal is to be a NASCAR driver. Okay, that's absolutely amazing. I want you to have that goal. But the chances of that happening are so slim, really, in the scope of things. There's so many other things they could do. They could be, they could be a mechanic, do this. So can you talk a little bit about, one, your high school years and how you got through that with all of your things that were going on? And then a little bit about, what do you think girls can do career-wise, even if they're not as good a driver, or maybe they have a different ability? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so during high school, I was in the thick of all my surgeries, and I am, like, that's when you're trying to find yourself, and you're trying to meet people and have all these friends. But I was in the hospital all the time, missing school all the time, staying at home sick all the time because I felt awful from all the medicine I was on. So at one point I just got sick of it, and I was at a really low point in my life, and just because it was just so much to take on, and I was in a wheelchair too. And I just asked my mom and dad at the time, can't we just cut it off? And we were at the doctor's office. I remember the exact day we were there, and the conversation was like, okay, well, her leg is still not making growth. We're not getting it long enough, and we need more length on it, so we need to go back into surgery again. And I just lost it. I'm like, can't we just stop this? I'm so sick of it. And you think about how long ago that was, probably 15 years ago, and technology back then, and doctors, oh no, that's too drastic, we don't want to cut it off because that's the last resort. And here I'm thinking, well, if you just get rid of it, then it'll be one more surgery and I'm kind of done.
Right.
On the positive side of it, let's be done with all this. And my parents were like, no, that's crazy. But nowadays, if you think about it, it happens a lot more than it used to because of technology. And people think that all the technology advances and most people who are amputees are from the war, from army or whatever, military. And really, most amputees are motorcycle accidents, vascular disease, all these other things, but you automatically think, oh, it's someone in the service. So it's just funny. Back then I asked, now I had it done. But, and all the assumptions along with that, I get thanked a lot for my service when I wasn't in the military. So I have to avoid wearing camo and anything military related because people think I was in the service. But I'm like, no, I just got my leg cut off. I didn't do anything brave like that. But back to the high school thing. Yeah, back then my mom and dad were like, no. Doctors were like, no. And it's funny because when I told my mom a year ago, because I had it last July, I told her, I was like, I'm going to get my leg cut off. And she just started crying like uncontrollably. I was like, why are you so upset if this is what I want to do for my life and better my life? And she's like, we tried so hard to save that leg and you went through so much to save it. And my message to her and to anybody is like, you can't think of all the things that you're letting go. You have to think of all the things that you're going to gain. And once you think about all those, stop looking at the past, look at all the stuff that you have, the positives in the future. Look at all the things that have happened to me since then. Like, I've had such a great life in the past year and a half since then. And that was like really hard for people to understand, I guess. And my logic was like, you're trimming the tree in order for the bad parts to go and the rest of the tree to flourish and grow. So that
Yeah.
was my thing.
That's amazing. I know you told me you hadn't worn shorts until recently. Yeah. And St. Louis gets hot, so
I would be out at baseball games, like at the Cardinals game, in pants and 100 degree weather, because I was just ashamed of myself. And like, people are really, really mean, and they just look at you and they didn't really understand the concept. It's funny, they don't understand the concept of a leg brace because they think it's just temporary. And this was something I wore for almost my whole life. But yet when they see a prosthetic leg or a bionic robot leg, they get it and they think it's cool. So it's just kind of interesting, people's perceptions. Like, they think it's cooler that I don't have a leg than I did. You know, I don't know, but it's definitely changed my life for the better. And I guess I didn't really realize how it would affect not only myself, but the people around me as well. Because it really has affected every person in my life. But I don't know, it's for the best, and I don't regret it at all.
So when you say it's affected everybody in your life, and you don't have to share things that you're not comfortable with, but like your mom was so upset, I know, because she went through all that with you, your mom and dad. I get that part about the mom. She's trying to save her beautiful young daughter, you know. But what other, like your sister or whoever, how would it affect what you were going through affect them?
Yeah, so I was actually married prior to getting my leg amputated, and I went through divorce this past year, not just because of the leg, but a lot of other things. But it does have an effect on your marriage and your relationships, and they compare losing a limb to like losing a child. So you think about that in terms of a relationship. I went through big changes, and it changed me as a person for the better. And it didn't really necessarily, I guess me and my husband outgrew each other. I was growing in one direction and he kind of wasn't. He was doing his own thing. And I wasn't like a damsel in distress kind of person before, but my confidence level and everything is, I'm just so much more of myself now. And I think that had a lot of effect on our relationship as well. So you just think, like, you don't realize how big of an effect it's going to have on everyone around you. And I mean, I got a divorce because of it. So and my daughter, I just didn't realize, like, when I walk into daycare, all of her friends ask questions and like, oh, your mom's got a robot leg, and she knows that I need help with like walking sometimes, or I need help with her carrying stuff. The little things that you don't think about have a really big impact on other people. But I don't regret any of it. It's made my life a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, that, that's something that I think people don't think about either, that, okay, so my back has changed my life, and it has more probably affected my husband,
Yeah.
because I'm not supposed to lift things more than 10 pounds. And, a gallon of milk is heavy,
Yeah.
and a case of water and the things. And I was very independent. I took care of myself. I was all about, if I wanted to get in the car and go somewhere and do, but I've had to rely on him more, and his life really has changed, but it hasn't been for the worse. He just does what he does, and he helps me, and he's patient and kind. And it's hard to think about the other person's shoes, what they're
Yeah.
going through.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing that I have a hard time doing as well, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, because they may be struggling with it just as much as you are, and in different ways, I guess. But
Right.
yeah, definitely something to think about.
So I want to talk a little bit about careers.
Yeah.
You're interested in being a drag racer. That's cool. There's a lot of women that drag race, which is very fun. If you had choice of careers, what are some things that you could have done besides you're doing an office job, which that makes perfect sense? Was there any kind of career you were interested in that you felt like you just couldn't do now? Or is this kind of, you found your niche? You found, oh, I really like doing this. Talk a little bit about that if you could.
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest thing that I've always wanted to do is like, other than drag racing, or like big monster truck driver, like meeting and event planning. I love doing that kind of thing, but it is like running around a lot and carrying things, and things you don't really think about unless you have to physically think about all that stuff. But I don't know. I would just never not go after something just because I don't think I could physically do it. Because one thing I've learned working here in a big corporation is there's always people willing to help you in any aspect of your job when you are differently able. Like, hey, I've set up this meeting for like 300 people, and I can't carry all the materials there, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. I can do so much more, and those little things, there's always going to be someone there to offer to help, or I have to get over my pride and just ask for help, which I can do. I've learned to do that throughout the years and just ask for help. But yeah, I definitely want to do like meeting and event planning. I don't know, I just want to do big things, and maybe potentially work at a prosthetic company and kind of help amputees, because I do peer-to-peer visiting with amputees. So whenever someone in St. Louis, they'll pair me up with somebody who just lost a limb and they're in the hospital and they need somebody to talk to kind of get the lowdown on like, how does this work? Like, when do I get my leg? What are the struggles that you face? So I'll go and they'll call me up and I'll meet them in the hospital and kind of walk them through that. And I'd like to do more stuff like that, or do some kind of sales and marketing in the prosthetic world, because you can't really trust somebody who doesn't have one. I know
Yeah.
it sounds weird. My prosthetist is an amputee, so, and my orthopedic surgeon is an amputee. So I kind of go to people who have been through it and empathize and kind of understand exactly what you're going through. And I think it would be perfect for me to go into something like that. And that's kind of my dream, to just be an amputee prosthetic person, sales and marketing.
I think that sounds like a fabulous career for you, because you're so positive and easy to talk to. I feel like I've known you for a long time. And you're calm, and I don't seem like you would get that excited or whatever. And I think that would be a great personality to do that kind of work.
Yeah.
So how did you get, is there an association or something? How did you get to like be paired up with people?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. There's the Amputee Coalition. it's like a big amputee thing where they talk to prosthetic companies, and they do peer visitor training. I haven't gone through that yet, but my prosthetic company is Hanger, and they have a peer-to-peer. They kind of same thing as the Amputee Coalition has, but they do their own thing. So I represent Hanger when I go places, and that's how I started going to hospitals. I went through the training, but then also it's such a weird thing, like when you're different, you're like in a small kind of community of people, and people know me as the girl with the one leg, like, oh, my friend just lost his leg in a motorcycle accident. So I have a big social media following, and that's how I met the last guy. This girl, she knew me because of my truck and social media, and she messaged me and said, my friend just lost his leg. He's in the hospital. He was in a motorcycle accident. Would you mind like sending him a message? And I was like, well, why don't I just come visit him? And I'd rather meet him and talk to him in person because I can get to know him and he can ask questions or whatever. So a lot of social media comes into play with that because they know who I am. Or if I'll hear of somebody off Facebook, there was another guy who lost his leg from a motorcycle accident. And I saw his story, so I messaged his son, and then I went and visited him. So it's just, social media is such a cool thing, and I hate it when people are so negative about it because I'm so positive. I love it. Like, I wouldn't know half the people like you that I know if it weren't for social media. So a lot of that is from Hanger and then social media and people asking me, hey, do you want to come visit this person? And it's great because I love doing it, and it gives people kind of that hope, like, hey, she went through this, I'm gonna get through this too. And it's a very lonely process if you don't have people who are like yourself to go through and ask questions. So
It's interesting. We have a Hanger is here, actually,
yeah.
not far from my house.
Yes.
And so, I think as sitting here listening to you talk, I was thinking Hanger would benefit a lot from hiring you and having you travel to the different
Oh, yeah.
and setting up meetings with their patients and that, because I think that would be a benefit to them and to the patients, obviously,
Oh, yeah.
to have you do that. That would be, travel. Now, do you actually drive your big pink truck, or is it more for a show?
I drive it a lot. I probably drive it way more than I should. Everyone, like, when I first got it, I probably had like 10,000 miles on it, and I have 40,000 on it now. So I need to stop driving it, but it's just, I love it
So fun.
Yeah, and when I do take it to, I'll meet amputees at Hanger or whatever. I'll go to different clinics and meet amputees. I like to show it to them and be like, hey, look, just because you lost your leg, you can still have hobbies. You can still be in the automotive world. If you lost it on a motorcycle accident and you still want to ride motorcycles, I know plenty of amputees who still ride motorcycles. Like, go do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my message, why I drive it. But yeah, I drive it too much, and I probably shouldn't. But
No, I don't know that I don't know that you could actually drive it too much, because I bet you get a lot of attention.
yeah, I go. I can't go anywhere. I'll get like messages or videos on my Facebook Messenger, like, "Hey, I just saw you."
Yeah, you can't hide if you're driving.
No, I can't.
Sure, Kristy. No, very, very. I tell you, I'm just amazed even more today after talking to you now again at the positivity you have, because so many people need that. I'm involved in a company called Send Out Cards, and it's a great company. You should check into it. And it's greeting cards. We send greeting cards. And we had a convention several years ago, and Cody Bateman is the owner of the company. And one of the things that he teaches is that 87% of what you're surrounded by every day is negativity.
Oh, yeah.
And so my son and my best friend and I, we were all, going to conventions. So we had T-shirts made that say 13%. We're going to be part of the 13%, not the 87.
I love that.
And it really caught on. So sometimes you'll see me hashtag 13%. And
I
that
love
just
that.
is a reminder that you need to keep that positivity. And, you know, so many people, Send Out Cards is a fabulous company. Talk about positivity. There's no way you can't be positive when you're sending cards to other people. You know, it makes you feel better. And I love that you kind of have that same thing. You should use that. You're part of the 13% club, you know?
I'm going to use it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just amazed and so blessed to have met you through Facebook. I feel like we're going to be good friends. And hopefully you'll get to come to the PRI show a day or two in December. I would love to have you in the booth with us and share your story with people. That would be awesome.
If you want me to bring my truck, I will.
Absolutely. I don't know how we'll get it, where we'll park it, but I'll talk to PRI about it.
Yes, let me know because I would love to.
Okay. Definitely, I'll reach out to them and see if we can do something like that. So is there anything else, Kristy, that you'd like to share with the listeners? Or
I think my biggest thing, and always stay positive. And I know all of our struggles are relative to what's going on in our life, but never, ever, ever give up. Doesn't matter if it's your physical challenges, your dreams, your goals. Don't ever give up, because you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah. You've certainly done that for sure.
Ryan.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Kristy, thank you so much for being on here today. I know the people that are going to hear this are going to be blessed by your story just as much as I was. And absolutely also touch on the PRI show. So thank you again for taking time out of your day to be here.
Thank you.